Hi everyone, I'm Film Club reporter Matt. Welcome to the third afternoon of our live webcast in January celebrating National Storytelling Week.
And hello, I'm Claire. I'm from the schools team here at Film Club. I want to say hello to all of the schools that we know are watching. There are a few of these this afternoon. So we've got St Mary's High School in Newry, Northern Ireland. Hello. We've got Swanwick Hall School in Derbyshire. Mark Hall Specialist Sports College in Harlow. Clifton Community Arts School. Whitstone School in Somerset. Cardinal Newnham High School in Glasgow, South Wilts Grammar School for Girls and St Anne's Catholic School in Enfield. So hello to all of you out there.
Hello, and a quick shout out to my history teacher. Hi Mrs Matthews.
Hi Mrs Matthews. So and also I want to say a huge thank you for all of your questions. We sent in loads and loads of questions today. We might not have a chance to read all of them out, but thank you so much for sending those in. If you do want to get in touch during the webcast, the tweet information and the email address should be running across the bottom of the screen there. Just before we get started, for all of you club leaders out there, do have a look at the Film Club website. There's a resource that we've put together called Book to Film and Back Again, also celebrating National Storytelling Week, so have a look at that. But today, Matt and I will be interviewing screenwriter Simon Reade and actor George Mackay, so hello.
Yep, we're here to talk about their work on the brilliant film adaptation Michael Morpurgo's book Private Peaceful. Hello, Simon and George, and welcome to the Film Club website.
Hello. Yeah.
So, Simon, Private Peaceful is a book by Michael Morpurgo. How does it all work? Does the director ask you to turn it into a film, or does...
Well, that's a really interesting question. I think it's different every time you do an adaptation. With me, I'd already adapted the story for the theatre, and so Michael actually asked me if I would write the screenplay, and he asked Pat, the director, if he would direct it. So the director and the writer didn't know each other and had never met, and then we got together and then we worked on it together over a while, with Michael kind of overseeing us. That's how it worked on this one.
Okay, Lydia from Swanwick School asked George, what was it like seeing yourself on screen?
Hi Lydia. It's always a bit daunting. It's always a bit odd and scary because the first time you watch the film, it's difficult to be involved in the story. You remember more your sort of personal story of what you were doing that day, how you were feeling, what was funny that had happened, what was difficult that happened. So it was interesting. It's an odd thing.
We're now going to watch the Private Peaceful trailer so the viewers out there can learn a little bit more about the film and what happens in it.
Tomo! I will get you home, Tomo!
The Peaceful family have been employed by my family 5 generations.
Afternoon, Molly.
You're pinch of snuff, Colonel.
I'd like to pinch you, Miss Farr.
Colonel.
That's it, right? I think I'm in love. Pardon? I think I'm in love. Oh, which one, her? Do you think Molly might meet us later? Work, Tomo!
I didn't want to hide it from you.
You did hide it from me.
I didn't want to hurt you.
The army need fit, able-bodied young men ready to fulfill their patriotic duty.
My little boy, what have you done?
Name! Private Tomo Peaceful.
What's it for? So a few little rich men can hang on to power a little while longer while we bleed us dry?
It's better than breaking your back all your life working someone else's land. You must get stuck here forever.
Here's home, Tomo.
You're a coward, Charlie Peaceful.
You think I should just stay here and let them fight without me?
All right, Tomo, lad! Before we lost you, lad. He can't walk, Sergeant! Are you disobeying my order? Private Peaceful!
Charlie, I have to tell you. You still have feelings for Molly. I'll love her till the day I die. Oh, Tom. The world's changing. When you lot stop ruling our lives, England will change too. There'll be no more empire.
And there'll be no more war!
It's a great trailer. Anyway, Janine from Swanwick School Hall in Derbyshire asks Simon, had you read Warhorse or any other Michael Morpurgo books before you read this, before writing the screenplay?
Hi, Janine. Yeah, I've read. He's written nearly about 130 books now, and I think I've probably read about 129 of them. But the most important thing for me, obviously, was as soon as I knew that I was working on Private Peaceful, was to read all the stories, not just about the First World War, which is obviously War Horse and Farm Boy, but also to read his other war stories as well, like Toro Toro, which is a very good story about the Spanish Civil War, and the Mozart Question, which is about the Holocaust and the Second Civil War, the Second World War, because the war stories and the way that Michael tells them, and he's pretty uncompromising, that even though they're told from the point of view of young people, it's about the incredible impact that they had on young people, and all of that informs you as a screenwriter when you're then focusing on the one story of Private Peaceful.
Mm-hmm. Is it harder to write a screenplay from scratch or to adapt a book?
Well, there's a kind of art and a craft, if you see what I mean. The art is having ideas and making things up, and the craft, whether you're writing a version of your own original story or adapting somebody else's story, is always going to be the same. I mean, the most, I suppose, in the end, yes, it's probably hardest to be an artist, because it's sort of, that's where you have pure imagination, and when you're adapting something, you're half an artist and half a craftsman. But even when you're writing your own thing, I don't know. Sorry, that's a very roundabout way of saying I don't really know, other than coming up with the original idea is probably the hardest thing of all. And obviously, in this case, that's what Michael did.
We've got a question now that's been sort of asked by several schools. So St Mary's School in Newry asked it, Clifton College, and Aaron from Cardinal Newman High School asked George, had you read the book before taking the part in the film, and how did that inform what you did?
I hadn't before the audition, no. But when I was reading for the part, I read the book, and it was hugely useful because the book's told in the first person from Tomo's point of view. So it gave a real insight into his character, and Michael's writing is so clear with, you know, you can sum up, you know, paragraphs in certain sentences, you know, where there was, as we were talking about earlier, there was when he's talking in reference to his relationship with Charlie, he said, "I didn't live in his shadow, I lived in his light," and things like that. You immediately, that encapsulates that thing of still living in somewhat of a shadow, but it's such a positive, you know, glow, like his glow, and it completely encapsulates the whole. Yeah, it encapsulates the whole relationship. So things like that really informed the character. Yeah.
Okay. We're now going to watch a clip from the film. This is where we discover that Molly's having a baby and that she and Charlie are in love.
They've thrown her out.
Huh?
Her father and the Colonel have thrown her out. And it's your fault, Charlie.
Why? What's going on?
What's going on? So she's going to have your baby. That's what's going on.
I didn't want to hide it from you, Tom.
You did hide it from me.
I didn't want to hurt you. Because you love her, don't you? But I love her, Tomo. She loves me.
George, in the film, you and Jack O'Connell, who played your brother Charlie, were very convincing as a pair. Did you get the chance to get to know each other?
Yeah, we got to know each other very well throughout the shoot, and it was an 8-week shoot, and for the first 2 weeks it was only me and Jack who were out there. So, well, it was me and Jack, and also Hiro and Sam, who played the young Tomo and Charlie. And because we shot the scenes in the locations that featured both of us, both sort of ends of the story, it meant that you'd almost have only do half a day for the first 2 weeks. Right. So it would be the young Tomo and Charlie, then myself and Jack. And so while we didn't know each other very well before that, we had 2 weeks of acting together and then half a day off to get to know each other and be silly and have fun, and that first 2 weeks really cemented our relationship, so that when, you know, the filming process worked very similar with the character dynamics and the closeness. So it was me and Jack, and then Alex was the next one to come out, and then so you had the triangle of me and Jack jostling for her attention, and then it came to all the boys came out, and it kind of, that base layer of love for Charlie was most strong. Then it was for Molly, and then it was for the boys. You know, and of course there's a huge love with everyone, but the amount of time dictated the amount of sort of love, you know, we had on screen for each other.
Okay, well, Fleur from Witston School and Rachel from Cardinal Newnham asked George, did you draw upon personal experience relating to siblings, and do you have any of the same characteristics as Tomo?
Very good question, Fleur. I feel very close to Tomo. Yeah, as the sibling part of the question, I've got a baby sister, or 1 year younger, but she seems baby to me. And so the brotherhood was a different matter, but I did understand the feeling of kind of living in other people's light, as I was talking earlier, and looking up to people whilst trying to work out who I was as well. So, I mean, just for my best friends, one thing which was with Tomo is things that I think other people overlook as being a big deal to him matter hugely to himself, and I think that's something that I understood about having friends who were more talented at certain things, or just I was really small for ages and things like that, you know, having really all your mates being like twice the size of you and trying to be, you know, trying to fit in and trying to be part of the gang and all that kind of thing. And that was something that Tomo, I think, always has this complex about being a man, and that's why he wants to fight, because it's a masculine physical thing, you know. And I think that's something that I really related to. It was characteristics between myself and Tomo.
Well, we've got a Twitter question now. So this is from Swanwick Hall School. We've got two, actually. Did either of you have ancestors who fought in World War I? That's a great question. And did that influence your script writing or acting?
Yeah, well, I discovered as I was writing it that I did have a great grandfather, so my mum's grandpa, had fought in the First World War, but curiously, he was a Geordie, and he came from the working class part of Newcastle, and he fought in the First World War in what is now known as Iraq, and was then Mesopotamia. So not on the front line in the trenches and all that sort of stuff that we know at all, but out in the Middle East, which was quite incredible that you know, this guy from Newcastle, who probably very rarely saw the hot sunshine, was out there just in the desert and the marshes. And he survived that, and then in fact in the Second World War, fought in the Second... Well, he didn't fight in the Second War, he was in the Merchant Navy, but he was torpedoed and killed on a boat. But that was quite moving to discover that as I was writing these stories of these other lads. I also, I have a young son and young daughters myself, and just the thought that, particularly, you know, that only a couple of generations ago, that my son would have to go and fight in this kind of war, or would have signed up, you know, underage, was a great motivating thing in sort of writing passionately.
It's quite sort of unfathomable, really, that they'd have to go off so young. How about you, George? Was that something that...
No, not as much. No, I mean, my grandparents, as far as I don't actually know whether they fought in the war or not. I know that my grandfather was in the Second World War on my mother's side, and my dad's actually Australian, so although they did fight in the First World War and the Second World War, there were obviously less fighting. But my grandfather in the Second World War was an optician, and so he wasn't on the front line but making guns because of his trade, and he was putting things together because that's what was closer to what he did normally.
Okay. We're going to watch the final clip now. This is when we see the boys together in the trenches, getting into a little bit of trouble with the sergeant.
Come on, boy! All right, come on! All right, Tomo. Before we lost you, Tomo, lad. We're in the middle of bloody no man's land! I will get you home, Tomo. Oh, we're on a bloody holidays! We've got to get out of this land! No, we can't move! Well, then we better stay put, hadn't we? Stay put! We're only 50 yards from the German trenches! I want all of you on your feet, now! What the hell is the matter with you lot? You sent us out there, Sergeant. Watch the machine guns mow us all down. On your feet! Are you disobeying my order? Private Peaceful! Are you disobeying my order?
That looks pretty tough. George, did you need to go through any special training before you went to war?
Before we went to war, yeah. Taff and Tracy, who run Khaki Devil, which is where we were filming all the trench and stuff, and were our military advisors, and just like a font of knowledge. Right. It became a running gag that we couldn't find any question on any war, let alone the First World War, that Taff and Tracy didn't know the answer to. But all us boys, we went through 2 days of boot camp, really, with Taff teaching us how to walk, you know, because it was very practical, the way they conducted themselves. You know, we all thought we were going to be marching, you know, taking big steps and high knees, but it wasn't. It was ordered walking somewhat, purely because they were walking with such heavy packs, and they needed to keep a sense of sort of regiment and discipline, but also a practical sense of if you don't need to keep your knees all the way up because you've got so far to walk, don't. You know. So it was
survival techniques then, in a way.
Completely. I mean, thinking really sensibly, just being sensible and practical about everything.
Dennis from Swanwick Hall School says, were the war scenes scary or exhausting? I'd imagine, actually.
Yeah, they were. I mean, there's part of you that can't help but be quite excited, and we were all like, oh God, we've got guns, we've got bombs and stuff. And then but then you remember what it's rooted in as well. Yeah. But there was one time I remember where we'd set out this particular shot, and we had I think it was 4 cameras on the side. It was one of our biggest days, and we'd set up a sort of where all these explosions were going to go off, and we're all walking up, and I had my path that we'd marked it out and choreographed where I was going to go and timed where the bombs were going to be. And I got to and there was 4 bombs on this sort of run, and we're walking along, and I got to the first bomb went up, and it was always 6 foot would be the minimum distance you could be to the bomb. And the third bomb, I got to about 7 feet away. I thought it was going to go out in a second. Still hasn't blown up. Still hasn't blown. And then it went off, and I remember it just being, you know, feeling this rush of air and seeing all this earth going up in front of you, and that really gets your heart going and completely puts you in, you know, the mindset, and just to think that's, you know, a controlled explosion as well. And I remember seeing and they used the shot in the film as a different soldier because it was shot from behind. But when we saw it, I was like, oh, that was me, because the rifle went up above my head and almost fell over, and, you know.
But it's amazing the way they're shot. I mean, am I right in thinking that a lot of them were handheld, so it's really close, and when you're watching it, you feel very much sort of amongst the mud and the explosions, and they're really powerful.
I mean, George talks about 4 cameras being used, which is right. I mean, we had our DOP, who's this amazing Polish guy called Jerzy, and a brilliant kind of lead cameraman, Mark Covington, who's also a Steadicam expert. And so it was a mixture of handheld and Steadicam. But then they had these kind of extraordinary things that the grip would rig up, which would be a little kind of GoPro, one of those cameras that you can buy really cheaply from Maplin or whatever, and it bung on the bottom of a sort of a wheel that was on the end of a stick, and they improvised a lot of the stuff to get really into the heart of the action, because we felt rather than try and do great big wide shots and have, you know, thousands of people swarming over, actually we wanted to be there, and it's very subjective. The sound is subjective, the picture is very, very subjective, to actually feel what it's like to be Tomu, to be the other lads going across no man's land and being shot at and being blown up.
Okay, well, I think we have a voicemail question now, so could you do the honours for me, please, Matt?
With pleasure.
Hi, I'm Jack from St Ninians, and my question is, who has been your favourite person, actor or director, to work with in your experience in the field of media? Is there anyone you would like to work with in the future?
Okay, well, brilliant question, Jack. Thank you very much. That's Jack from St Ninians asking who've been your favourite people to work with, and who'd you like to work with in the future?
Well, myself, I mean, working with any professional actor, that everyone's so different, and writers and directors, so I mean, it would be a cop-out to say they're all like, it's all a joy to work and meet with all these different people. But for me personally, I learnt a lot from an actor called Eddie Marzan, who I worked with recently this year, who's a British actor who is just in everything, but is such an incredible character actor.
What could we see him in?
I'm trying to think of age range as well. I mean, the thing we did together was a programme called Best of Men that was on television. He's in The Disappearance of Alice Creed. He's in War Horse, actually, another Michael Moore. He's the one with the gun at the end and the horse. And just his professionalism and everything was just really kind of extraordinary to be around, and I learned so much from him. So I think Eddie Marzan has been had a real effect on me.
Okay, and what about you, Simon?
Well, I've worked with a lot of actors and a lot of directors and a lot of writers, all of whom I've enjoyed working with over the years. But I think in the end, probably it's the producers that have been the most inspiring people to me. So people like Stephen Daldry that I've worked with, who's also a director, obviously. Simon Curtis, who's also a director, directed the Marilyn Monroe, with Marilyn. Richard Eyre I've worked with as a director, but he's also a producer. Paul Greengrass, who one of the most inspiring writer, producer, directors that I've ever worked with. It's those people who really make things happen right from way before they dream up the idea, they follow it all through, and then they see it right through to the end when everybody's gone home and moved on to the next project.
Okay, I think we've got a couple more questions.
Yeah, St Mary's High School in Newry asks Simon, do you think the story is relevant today, and why?
Yeah, do you know what, that's a really sad question, because it is relevant, because you only have to see how many people, and it's going to be, it's always kids, who are still getting killed in places like Syria and in other places in North Africa, and whenever there's a war, there are always going to be children who are affected, either because they literally take up arms and are forced out there to fight, or because of they're killed by stray bombs, or with what people euphemistically call collateral damage, or that members of their family are killed. So a story like this still does, sadly, remain very relevant, and you have to keep telling these kinds of stories, particularly to a younger generation, because surely one day some of us are going to grow up and just say, let's not do this anymore, let's not have any more war. That really doesn't solve problems. Killing people doesn't solve anything. So yes, it is sadly still relevant.
Well, Nathaniel and Josh from Markle Specialist Sports College asked George, there are sort of two parts to this question. Did you have a favourite part in the film that you played in, and was it easier to work with Jack and the parts where you were with somebody else? And sort of in a similar vein to that, David from Cardinal Newman School asks, were you and Jack competitive off screen?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I think it was a similar relationship, definitely. I think from every, in a nice way, obviously, but we used to play stupid games like be on all fours with each other in a sort of press-up position and try and grab the other one's hand to make them feel like, it was all that kind of stuff, just inane things, terrible rap battles, which I should never try.
Rap battles?
Yeah.
Any that you would like to share with us?
Oh God, no. It was like truly awful. So any sort of like, me and Jack had a very sort of sweetly competitive relationship. And it was also wonderful working with him. Just because, someone like Jack, his energy is nuts. Like, when he's on set, and he's again got this drive to get it right and be true to the moment and to the script and to get across, what he wants to get across. And so to be, to work with him was really fantastic. So yeah, I enjoyed it hugely.
Well, thank you both very much for coming in to talk to us this afternoon. It's been brilliant hearing lots from you. Sadly, we've run out of time, but just must tell you, it's competition time. So, for all of you viewers out there watching, courtesy of Scholastic Book Club, Film Club are running a competition for you to win a load of Film Club goodies. So you can win some cinema tickets, some DVDs and a popcorn maker for your very own Film Club. You just need to send in a review of a classic novel that's been turned into a film, and the best review will win the prizes. So all that's left to do is to say thank yous and goodbyes, I think, isn't it, Matt?
Yes, thank you very much for joining us in the studio today. Please do join us again tomorrow when we'll be talking to the brilliant Ian Banks about the David Lean season. Bye.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.